Regular viewers will notice that I'm coming to you from a different angle today, and that's because earlier on I did a video where I fixed the storage box in this Alfa Romeo Giulietta using a £3.10 part from a Brabantia bin from eBay. Anyway, it worked a treat, but whilst I was fixing that, I broke my bracket from my phone holder, taking it off the window. So you are currently coming to you live via a big blob of blue tack. So if I fall over at any point, you know what's happening. My blue tack's not worked properly. Anyway, today is the 4th of July, Independence Day for you American viewers. Happy Independence Day, American viewers. Feel free to gloat in the fact you're no longer ruled by the British. But more importantly, it is Independence Day for the great British van driver. And here's why. I've looked at the figures for sales for electric vans, and last year it was 5% of all vans were milk float vans. And this year their target is 22%. Now, you will know, if you're a regular viewer of this channel, that this whole thing started for me in an electric van. I picked it up from a place called Huntingdon in Cambridgeshire, from an airfield where they store all these electric items. Apparently they're not stored there, they're not pre-registered and stored there, you're making it up. I used to go there all the time and pick them up, loads of people do. You can get it on Google Images, you can see them all lined up. There was a British Gas one, they're all lined up on the runway, but I made it all up. This was the first time I'd ever driven an electric van, so I had no expectations. It's a Vauxhall Vivaro E. 75 miles later, I'm stopping to charge it up. 75 miles later, I stopped to charge it up. 75 miles later, I got to stop to charge it up. And because I had to do 230 miles in it to get to Weymouth, I ended up charging it 10 miles outside Weymouth, or 13 miles if you want to be precise, in Dorchester, at about 10 o'clock at night, because it had run out of charge again. The whole journey should have took me about 4 hours, and it ended up taking me 9. So I knew from that moment on that these vans were shit, and I've said that companies that have gone over to them are going back to diesel. No, they're not. You're talking through your arse. I spoke to a British Gas representative who said we're totally committed to electric. I don't give a shit what they say. I never gave a shit what British Gas said, because I know the truth, because I was in there and I was doing it, and I spoke to the engineers and they said we're handing them back and we're getting our VW Caddy diesels back because we can't be asked for this shit anymore. It's useless trying to do a day's work. Same with all the other firms that were going over to electric and have now said hang on a minute. Now, I can prove this with one simple statistic. Only 7% of vans sold this year are electric. Now, if everybody, all the big fleets are all replacing their vans with milk float vans, why aren't figures going up? They're not going up. They've gone up by 2% in a year on year. They're still only at 7% of all sales. It's still 93% diesel. Actually, I think it's 92% diesel, 1% petrol, 7% milk float. So at some point, the industry will look at those figures and go, this hasn't worked. And I'm telling you that they're looking at that going, this hasn't worked. This hasn't worked. Luckily, we haven't invested any money in it, because all they did was take existing vans and existing parts and put sewing machine engines in them, because they thought this might fail because of the range, because of the loads, because of the stuff you've got to add to them, and they just weren't going to be practical with the current batteries. So they did it as cheaply as possible, and they all did it. That Mercedes Vito I drove had a compass instead of a sat nav. If that doesn't tell you that a firm's trying to save money and trying to cut corners and not spend too much money on this folly, which is what it is, it's pandering to people for the sake of having to pander to people, and it hasn't worked. It's been a massive failure. And milk floats are at 20%. All right, it's at 20%. you may remember, and this is a story for another day, that a story broke yesterday that 1 in 5 new cars sold is actually a Motability car. And Motability are almost exclusively EV these days. And it turns out that 1 in 5 new cars sold is a EV, and nobody would make that connection. Back to vans. So, the van experiment hasn't worked. People have had them, they've tried them, they've given them back. And the only people that can use them are people that do less than 50 miles a day, and people that are on short runs, and people that have no load in them whatsoever. Even the post office, and let's face it, all their little vans, they only do short trips. It's turned into an absolute nightmare for all the postmen, because they forget to charge it, they don't charge it overnight, the charge overnight doesn't work sometimes, so they come in the morning and it's flat. Then they've been told they're not allowed to charge it in the post office anymore because it's a fire hazard, so they've got to take it round the corner to the nearest charger. But the nearest charger isn't a fast charger, it's a slow charger, so it takes 24 hours. So then they leave it in Tesco's car park, and then they get a parking ticket for leaving it in Tesco's car park, so they take it to another car park where they buy a parking ticket, but the card doesn't work there, so they still can't charge it, and then they end up bringing it back to the office and saying it's got 2 miles of range and there's nothing we can do about it. True story. Absolutely 100% true story. I can't reveal my source, but that is a true story. And that is what is happening with electric vans all over Britain. And that's why they aren't selling. And they are not selling. Not even in their tens of percents. We are in single percentages. 7%, that's it. And that figure is flatlining, it's not going up. So the people that have got them are the people that are having them, and it ain't going up any further, and it's not likely to, because these, remember, the vans are not used for leisure, they are a business tool. And this is the problem, and this is what I've heard from every single bloke who's had an electric van, or every single bloke or woman that's worked for a company that's had electric vans. They've all said exactly the same thing, which is this: yeah, we had those electric vans in, but then the workmen were spending an hour a day charging them up, drinking coffee when they should have been working, and productivity went down. So the bosses took them out of circulation. Now we've gone back to diesel. Virtually every single time, exactly the same explanation. Because if it knocks productivity, fuck the environment. That's the truth of it in business. They all want to look, oh yes, we're all environmental, and we're green, and oh yes, look at us. Oh, we're doing our bit for the polar bears. Aren't we wonderful? We have such excellent carbon credentials. What's that? Our profit margin's gone down. Fuck the polar bears, let's make some money. And that is the bottom line. And the bottom line is what matters in business, nothing else. So they can say that they're environmentally friendly and everything else, but when it comes down to it and it affects their bottom line, bang, straight back to diesel. And that's exactly what everybody's doing. Exactly like I said they would. I'd go in Smug Corner, but I can't, I'm only doing 10 miles an hour. I'll be over here in Smug Corner for about the next 30 seconds. The electric van experiment has failed. It is over. It will not work. I said it wouldn't work. It's not going to work. Everyone is going to just be driving diesel vans for the foreseeable future, because the vans just aren't good enough to do the job. End of story. Thank you very much. Fat lady, come in and sing. I'll be in the pub. Future my arse.